My brothers and sisters, you are now watching The Gamer 2323, so just forget about the chores you're supposed to do. Put your feet up, get your Kool-Aid, fried chicken, popcorn, get whatever you may need. And I hope you enjoy the video.
Well, I be damned. That's what Glenn was doing the whole time. I can't believe it, bro. No, but before I get into what happened in last night's episode of The Walking Dead, I didn't do episode 6. One, I was too busy. And two, I wasn't really taking notes during the last episode. It was kind of a boring, I think episode 6 was like the most boring episode so far this season. So it was with Daryl, Sasha, and Abraham. They get attacked by these group of people and they're forced in different directions. So it's Daryl by himself and Sasha and Abraham are still together. So with Daryl, he's out by himself and he gets ambushed by this small group of people, and but they eventually let him go because they're really not sure like who he's with, so they let him go. Daryl takes his stuff back and runs from them. They find this other group of people and Daryl comes back to save them. So that happens. And then you get the idea that Daryl's going to try to bring them back with him back to Alexandria. That does not happen. Towards the end, they freaking betray this guy. they betray Daryl and take his motorcycle, his crossbow, everything. And then Daryl was just like, that's what I get for that. That's what I get for trying to save you guys, So that happens. I think Abraham had jungle fever in that episode because he was trying to hit on Sasha. And Sasha was like, what are you doing? But so episode 6, it was kind of a boring episode. Not too much happened. It was really just that stuff. But screw that episode. Screw that, bro. We gotta get into last night's episode. My God. Episode 7. This one was called Heads Up. Heads up indeed, because Glenn is back.
He's underneath the dumpster with him.
I guess he was. That man was truly underneath the dumpster waiting for Rick. Bro, I didn't think this would be the episode to where we see Glenn again. I knew he was going to somehow get back to Glenn being dead or whatever, but I didn't think it was going to be this episode. I thought it might be the mid-season finale, which is the next episode coming up. I thought they might do it then or something, but they started off this episode with Glenn. And so they do is a little, I guess it's a flashback to where when Nicholas, and again, people were saying that, and I was like, okay, I agreed with them. Even if that did happen, if Nicholas, when they both fell into the freaking pool of walkers, I agreed with people. I was like, okay, let's say that Nicholas did fall on top of Glenn, and Glenn was using,
He's using Nicholas.
He's using Nicholas as a shield, right? So I was like, okay, even if that does happen, who's next? I'm like, it's Glenn, but come to find out, that man literally did everything people were trying to say. That man, he did use Nicholas as a shield, which I didn't find shocking. I really did think they were biting into Nicholas, not Glenn, but I was just thinking there's so many walkers around, they're eventually going to get, they're just not going to completely ignore Glenn, right? Right? It seems like that's exactly what happened. Walkers completely ignored Glenn So while they're feasting on Nicholas, Glenn goes underneath the freaking dumpster and he waits for Rick.
He's underneath the dumpster waiting for...
And I'm just like, my God. So that's really what happened. Glenn is alive, and I'm just like, listen, I love Glenn. I didn't want Glenn to die. I was just thinking, if you look at it from a realistic approach, if that was to happen, Glenn's dead. Period. Okay, and that's the way I was looking at it. But again, in a show like this isn't the first time where someone was supposed to die and they didn't die. Like, just like in last season with Tyrese, he was surrounded by walkers and all he had was a freaking axe or something. He was going like this, walkers all around him, and he still survived. So again, this isn't the first time that something like this has happened, because if this was real life, Glenn is Chinese food, fam. Like, he is done. Like, there's no way out of it. But that is what happened. All the walkers somehow completely ignored Glenn. All those walkers completely ignored Glenn and were just biting into Nicholas, and Glenn went underneath the dumpster. And I don't know how long he was down there, because he was like, he was like drinking water. He was like drinking water and stuff like that. And then Enid came. And the thing, what I found shocking, if you guys watched the Talking Dead, the very first episode this season, you know, with the quarry of walkers, all the stuff that we've seen so far has taken place in the span of one day. So it's not like there's been like a whole bunch of days to where, you know, Glenn was underneath that dumpster. Everything we've seen so far this season has been in the span of one day. That's what they said in Talking Dead. I was like, really? So, I mean, Glenn, it seemed like to us, he was underneath that dumpster for a while, because that episode was like 4 weeks ago. But in the time of the of the Walking Dead, that was only one day. So I was like, the freak ever. You know, so I'm glad Glenn is alive. But, and again, I was in a realistic situation. If that was to actually happen, that means done. So he's underneath the dumpster. Enid comes over. She's like on top of like a freaking roof or something. Like, she throws him down a bottle of water, and Glenn is like so thirsty. He's just freaking drinking like every freaking sip. So that happens, and then Enid, like, once she gives him the bottle of water, she dips. Like, you don't know where this chick went. She's just gone. And Carl is trying to get out there and try to save Enid. It really doesn't look like that she wants to be saved. She's doing her own thing right now. So that happens. Rick and Carl back at Alexandria are trying to teach these freaking noobs how to protect themselves, how to shoot guns and stuff like that. Because again, they're not used to this stuff. Like, and they got all these walkers outside. You better get used to it real quick, because they're completely clueless right now. So they're trying to teach them still. And the talk with Rick and Morgan comes. And I knew this was going to happen. Like, because you could see when Rick got back there, he wanted to talk to Morgan about, you know, what happened when the wolves came and attacked them. So Rick and Morgan and Carol, because she's with them, I'm like, no. Because now it's like 2 against 1. You have Carol and Rick against Morgan. And so Rick tells Morgan, why did he let the wolves go? And I'm guessing, did Carol tell Rick that? I don't know how he found out, but Rick knows that Morgan could have killed some of these wolves that he let go, and eventually those were the same guys that came out and tried to kill Rick when he was on the road by himself, you know. So Rick, you know, approaches Morgan about that, and Morgan, he's like, you know how Morgan, like, we've seen why Morgan is the way he is in that Eastman episode. You know, we get that, you know, he thinks all life is precious, you know. And so Morgan says something to the extent of, back in the Clear episode, why didn't you try to kill me when I tried to kill you? And then Rick was like, that's because I know you. You know, and Morgan in that episode, he did stab Rick with a knife, and Rick like put the gun on Morgan, but he didn't shoot. So Morgan was saying, how come when I tried to kill you, and I was going to try to kill you, because he was crazy in that episode. He was saying, how come you didn't kill me? Was it because you still believe in good in people, or what was it? And then Rick was just like, that's because I know who you are. You know, that was the only reason why I didn't kill you, and because you saved me. So it was that, but it was just like, and people knew that this was going to happen, because when Rick got back, you could see the way he was just looking at Morgan. It was just like, what is going to happen between these two? And again, I think it's so funny because it's almost like a complete role reversal. Morgan is Rick right now when Shane was alive, trying to get Rick to do what needed to be done, but Rick couldn't do it back around that time, like in season 1 through 2. Rick, he just couldn't kill people. And that's why, that's how I feel Morgan is now. And right now, Rick is Shane and Morgan is Rick. It's a complete role reversal. Their mindsets are completely different. And the good thing is you could see why both of these, you know, people are the way they are. You get why Rick, you know, will not take no more chances no more. He's been through so many things that every time he tries to come back, something happens. So he's almost forced to be this new guy. And you see why Morgan is the way he is, you know. So it was like it wasn't really, again, I did not think that they're going to clash. I don't think it's going to be Rick versus Morgan. Like, it's not going to be that, but they're going to have those disagreements, you know, and this was one of them. You know, Rick was just like, you really think you, you know how Rick be talking. He was like, do you really think that you can survive for this long without getting no blood on your hands? And then Morgan was like, I don't know. But what I do know is all life is precious. You know how, again, like, there are going to be disagreements because these two characters are like on completely, their mindsets are different. And again, as like a role reversal, Rick is now Shane and Morgan is Rick before he couldn't kill people, you know. So there was that there. But yeah, so that happened. Rick and Michonne later, they're trying to come up with this plan for how they're going to get rid of all of those walkers that's outside the fence, because they still have like half of the herd of walkers right outside. So they're trying to think about that. Going back to Glenn, he eventually finds Enid. And he's like, what the freak was that? Like, you threw me a bottle of water and then left? It was just like, so Enid, we all know Enid does not want to go back to Alexandria for whatever reason. She just doesn't like that place. Even when she was there, it didn't seem like she wanted to actually be there. And some people were saying that at one time that she could have been with the wolves, maybe, you know, because when they did get attacked, remember, she's the same person who said they're just people. So some people kind of think that before Enid was with the wolves, you know, and who knows, but she doesn't really seem scared of being out on her own, you know. But Glenn, you know, so he's trying to get her to come back with him. And Enid, she just doesn't want him. She does not want him to go back for whatever reason. She does not want to go back. And then Glenn like grabs her. Enid says, puts a gun on Glenn. I'm like, God, this chick does not want to go back with Glenn, you know. So that happened. Fast forward a little bit. I was literally, I through all the scenes that was going on, I was still trying to get over the fact they really kept us waiting for 4 weeks just to have that man be underneath the dumpster this long. That's like literally what 65% of my brain was focused on throughout this episode. I'm like, I can't believe they really did that. You know, so that happened. Rick is trying to make the wall stronger, you know, so he's trying to put up, you know, these planks, you know, on the other side of the wall, and, you know, to try to make the wall stronger, just because, again, you have a herd of walkers outside of the freaking fence, you know, so you better try to prepare for this stuff. So he's trying to make the walls stronger. eventually Glenn convinces, Enid, to come with him. He just like takes the gun from her because he gets the just that she doesn't really want to shoot him. So he eventually convinces her to come back with him, and Glenn is like, listen, we have to go back. Our people are back there. My pregnant wife is back there. So I'm guessing Glenn, cause when Maggie announced that she was pregnant, I personally didn't know if she was keeping it a secret or like Glenn knew. And eventually Glenn did know that Maggie is pregnant. So they have been getting it on since they were at Alexandria, so Glenn knows that Maggie is pregnant, is pregnant. So that's why he really is trying to get back there, to get back with Maggie. They, how they are, together. So that happens, and, he tries to tell Enid, listen, I know you're scared, but we have to do this to get back, home, get back to, safety and stuff like that. So that happens. Some scene, and this scene was so hilarious, bro. But, so there's one scene with, Spencer, and Spencer is, who's Deanna, son? So that's her son. I don't know what Spencer is trying to do. All I know is that this man was like on a freaking tightrope inside the freaking air. And he was like on the freaking tightrope, like he was like he was Lara Croft from a Tomb Raider. And I'm like, what is this guy doing? So he's like trying to get out of Alexandria for whatever reason. No one really knows why. Meanwhile, again, the herd is outside. So he's on like this rope inside of the sky. And all the walkers are like this trying to get him. And eventually, he kind of, falls for a second. And then his legs like dangling. It's just like, you're dead. It's just like, why would you even try something like that? Rick sees this and he just, Rick absolutely loses it. He's like, what the hell are you doing? Rick is not trained. Rick is not for this stupid stuff no more. He just can't deal with it no more, And then, Tara, she starts shooting. And I'm just like, listen, if that was me, I wouldn't have wasted not one bullet on Spencer. That was that man's fault that went out there trying to do God knows what, And in that situation, I completely agreed with Rick. Like, that was Spencer's stupid behind that was trying to leave for whatever, knowing there's a herd of walkers outside and you're on this freaking rope inside of the freaking sky and you want us to now save you for being stupid. No. Like, I was completely with Rick, but Tara's whole thing was like, yo, he was about to die. Like, you just want me to just sit here and just watch it? So she wasted the bullets to try to save Spencer. But Rick was like, listen, do not waste bullets when you don't have to. And in Spencer's case, I really think that Rick would have preferred Spencer dying than wasting a bullet. And to be honest, I was completely with Rick because Spencer, like, we all know how he actually is, Anyway, so it's just like, let that man die, so, and I really think a lot of people are going to die in the next episode. So after that happened, Rick, he goes back to, Tara. He's like, Tara, I'm sorry, for trying to raise his voice at her. But again, Tara was trying to save Spencer. Rick was he was trying to pull up Spencer, but he did not want to waste no bullets on this guy, so but then towards the very end, right? Maggie gets back to Alexandria. And again, in the Walking Dead time, this has been one day. And again, it seems like it's been so long because Glenn has been underneath that dumpster for us for like 4 weeks, right? So it seems like it's been a while. But again, only one day has passed since the very first episode. So, Maggie gets back there and she asks Rick, where's Glenn? Glenn is still not back yet. And, Rick, you can see that he really doesn't even know what to say. And the second after she asks Rick, where's Glenn? You hear like this crack and it's like, the freak? And you see one of the, buildings and like the way they did it seemed like it was like floating or something. I'm like, am I high? Cause it did just the way they shot. It was like, it seemed like it was a floating building, and then you can see it's starting to, and I'm like, oh my! So you can see it starts to tilt over, falls over, and it breaks a piece of it breaks a piece of the wall that they had keeping the walkers out. We all know the herd is right outside. Yo, the next episode. This is gonna be dang already. It's about to be the mid-season finale already, man. God dang. So that's in the next episode this week coming. But yeah, a part of the wall has fallen over because of the building that fell on it, and all those walkers that are outside, the gate just opened for them. So it's about to be bloodshed. It is about to be bloodshed in the next episode. Definitely people are going to die. I think a lot of the people that are at Alexandria are like going to get killed, like the same way they did when Rick took in all the people back from Woodbury, and how all they died inside, and how they all died inside of the prison. I think it's going to be the same case. A whole bunch of people are going to die because these people do not know. They haven't been in this world. They've been around these walls the whole time. So now that the walls are actually going to be in, people are going to die. There's about to be bloodshed in this episode. Man, and they showed the preview for this episode. It looks crazy. Like, man, people are going to die. That's all I know. People are going to die, man. But I thought this was a really good episode, especially, coming off of the last episode, which was kind of boring. But yeah, this episode, between Glenn actually being underneath the door, they really kept us waiting for 4 weeks just to show us that he indeed was underneath the dumpster, waiting for Rick. I blocked him too. I was like, you mean to tell me you kept us waiting for 4 weeks just to see this man is really actually underneath the dumpster? And I blocked AMC. I blocked him for like 30 minutes, bro. I couldn't take it, but... So yeah, man, Glenn is actually alive. He's back. He's trying to get back to Alexandria for his people. And Maggie, who is now Lori 2.0. And yeah, man, the wall has now fell over at Alexandria, and all those walkers are about to, man. But anyway, so yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. What did you guys think about this episode? I'm glad Glenn is alive, but that man should have died. Like, he just should have, like, I don't know, when they do stuff like that, I kind of feel like it takes away the realism of the show. It was the same case when Tyrese didn't die, when he was surrounded by those walkers last season. I was like, it kind of took away the realism of the show. If that was to actually happen, there is no way they're about to completely ignore Glenn and just go for Nicholas. There's no way. So I'm glad Glenn is alive, but in the same way, it's like, I think it's bad writing. They could have did something better than that. Even if you wanted to keep him alive, they should have never had that time skip. They should have kept, showing us what happened the second Glenn fell in there, instead of keeping us waiting for this long and then just showing us he's underneath the dumpster. Really? So I thought it was a good episode. Glenn is still alive. Next episode, the mid-season finale, is going to be crazy. And yeah, man. Yep. People are going to die next episode. A lot of people are going to die. But anyways, oh yeah, Daryl and them are still out there. You don't even know where they are, because Daryl, he doesn't even have his bike no more. How the heck is he going to get back? I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be crazy though. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. What did you guys think about last night's episode of AMC's The Walking Dead? Catch y'all in my next one, alright?